You're listening to On Mission with Dr. Matt Davis, a podcast designed to explore the personal mission of everyday leaders. Hear from men and women who are making a difference in their corner of the world and discover what keeps them on mission.
Welcome to On Mission with Dr. Matt Davis. I'm Jonathan Sheely. We are joined today by Dale Kooyenga, a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves and vice president at Milwaukee Metropolitan Association of Commerce. Dale and his wife Jennifer live in Brookfield, Wisconsin with their 4 children. Dale served 8 years as a Wisconsin state representative and 4 years as a state senator. His favorite meal is steak, and in his free time, he enjoys reading and working out. His favorite sports teams are the Brookfield Christian Eagles. Dale, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So fun. We are on the campus of Maranatha for the Leader to Leader conference today and last night. So obviously I'm not Dr. Davis. I'm Jonathan Sheely in the middle. Normally I sit over here. But we're tag teaming, making sure that we can get as many shows recorded this day as possible. So it's just me and Dale today.
Great. That's all we need.
So steak. Okay, this serious conversation first.
Well, I'm spoiled. So I married the farmer's daughter, and he has a couple hundred head of cattle. So we get a healthy supply of steak. People don't realize, though, how much little steak there is of a cow and how much ground beef there is.
Right.
So it's not like we have an endless supply. Like, we have meat, but, like, when you get that meat, there's only so many steaks, and there's a lot of ground beef.
Yeah, there's a lot of other stuff.
So I still, I love my steak. And then when I go out, I was at a restaurant in Milwaukee today called Carnivore.
Oh, that's a good spot.
It's the best. And Omar, who I'm friends with there, is the owner, and they just prepare it and cut it a whole different way. And so even though we have steak at home more frequently than others, I still will go out and be like, I want to try the steak there, because it's amazing how it's different based on
where you are,
how it's caught, how it's prepared.
So my wife and I have had this conversation. So she doesn't really like steak. She likes salmon. I could take her to the best steakhouse, and she'll probably order salmon.
I'll go well. I mean, steak is definitely my preference, but
what I found,
if you're paying, I'm getting steak and salmon.
Yeah, let's see. Yeah, exactly. Surf and turf. So, but the thing for me is, like, there's a certain level where the restaurant has to be a good enough restaurant to order steak, because at a certain level, I could probably make it better at home.
Right.
Yeah. So for me, I'm from Kansas City, so meat is a big deal. Right. And so, like, if you're going to do it, you got to do it right. So what do you eat with your steak? Because that's also an important thing, because you can experience steak differently.
Potatoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got like mashed potatoes with it, or like greens, like Brussels sprouts.
Oh, yes.
Like when they're prepared correctly, and you put a little like olive oil on them and sprinkle some good salt on it, and you just like get on the grill.
Yes.
Like perfect compliment.
Yeah. So I will usually do Brussels sprouts in a cast iron while I'm doing the steak.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
We've got it down, man.
We're friends.
We know what we're doing. Yes.
We've got it figured out. Now I'm hungry. Yeah. So that's important. And then the Brookfield Christian Eagles, I'm assuming that's not you playing.
No. So I'm the president of Brookfield Christian School Board, rolling off that next 3 months, but I've been doing that for 3 years. And that's my kid's school.
Great.
I've been like the assistant to the assistant for basketball coach in previous years. But I've had friends who've had their kids play sports there, in particular basketball, then go on to a large high school and play there, and then go on to a college and play there. And they have told me the best sporting experience they've had as a parent is Brookfield Christian School. Like, we have a big, our denomination is the Christian Schools International. They have like a big tournament, and those are the best. And so I totally agree with that. Like, now that we're in high school sports, like, it's fun and everything, but like there's nothing like that purely authentic 7th, 8th grade volleyball, basketball. I mean, they have big track meets. I just love it.
They're so raw at that age.
It is. It's raw motion. Like, it's great.
And they don't know what they're doing.
There's not like, I really appreciate like the professional sports, and my job right now. I mean, it's our job, and our members include the Bucks and the Brewers, and we're trying to get a semi-professional soccer team downtown Milwaukee. So I'm a big fan,
right?
And I will spend my money and time there, and I love it. I think it's great for our region. But, as a person in my family, if my son was like, I love Brookfield Christian School sports.
Yeah, I love that. I have the same thing. I'm from Kansas City, so I'm huge into the professional sports, and I don't get back home very often to see them.
Yeah.
But I would just as soon go to my wife's high school. She's an English teacher. I would just as soon go in because I have a relationship with some of those kids and
Right.
be able to cheer them on and see what there's development happening at that level as opposed to just making money.
Great.
Which I'm fine being a part of that world too. So, all right. So you've got quite the pedigree with some time serving as a representative and then as a senator. And then what does life look like now as a...
Yeah. So after 12 years of public service, I believe you shouldn't be a career politician. And state senate is the last level of office where it's not a full-time job. Mm. And so after 12 years in that type of office, it just really felt as if it was time to move on for a variety of different reasons, and really glad I did. I after interviewing for several different positions, really got excited about the Chamber of Milwaukee, MMAC, and I love that in my career I've worked in different industries, I've worked on education issues, and the breadth of the issues we work on is right up my alley. I love the networking aspect of it. We're not just Milwaukee, we are the 7-county region around Milwaukee.
Right.
And what we try to do is a lot of different things. We'll do workforce, try to encourage workforce housing. We'll advocate for policies that are good for the business community. We do a lot of school choice. MMAC was the leader on school choice as it was created as a program in 1991. And then it not only expanded in Wisconsin from there, but nationally from there. We have a group called M7, which will retain and recruit the largest businesses in the world and medium-sized businesses, even some startups, to come to the Milwaukee region to have more opportunities for graduates here.
Awesome.
And so, I love the job and looking forward to, I'm like 7 weeks in, looking forward to doing more and more there.
Awesome. 7 weeks in is like you just had the shock of the plunge and trying to figure out what's going on after that. So
yeah, there's a lot of grace there, and it's just networking weighted solutions. It was a great team.
That's awesome. So we're on the On Mission podcast, and the question that we ask just about all the guests: do you have a personal mission statement?
Well, it's funny when you're a kid, you're forced to memorize some things, and one of the things I was forced to memorize was Heidelberg Catechism question answer number 1, which is, what is your only comfort in life and in death? And the answer, the first part of the answer, I don't remember the whole thing, but it is that I'm not my own, but I belong body and soul, life and in death, to my faithful Savior, Jesus Christ. And I was just talking in the room there, we were talking about work-life balance. And the point of my work-life balance talk was that there really is no work-life balance. I mean, it's, as Christians, we believe in living out our faith, and that's in your work, which is also your life. And I always say, there was work in the world before there was sin. So I just kind of see myself, to really sum it up, is, we live in a broken world, and whether it be my Army service or my political service, my business service, or anything in between, it's just on a daily basis is being a tool to make that world a little less broken, and be a light.
And that has taken obviously different avenues over your life. And if you start as a young person with a goal of a mission, it can be hard to put that together. Yesterday we were talking with Sam Brock about putting together a mission statement, and it's fuzzy as a young person because you're like, these are some things that I want to do with my life. And I'm not exactly sure how to do it, but as you look back over your career, how has that mission looked different?
I'll give you some examples. Is politically, I think it was like always climbing that ladder to get the next point. So people are like, oh, when are you going to run for U.S. Senator? Are you going to run for governor? And you just kind of get to the point where it's like, well, my mission is not to obtain a title. My mission is to effectuate change. And I felt that I was able to make more change and make more of an impact doing what I was doing as opposed to running for higher office. Like when I look at Congress and it's dysfunctional, can I fit in there? Can I make an impact? And my answer was, I don't think I can. I think that would be about getting a title, and it would be at the detriment of my family life, my business life, my military life. And I don't want to chase titles. Like, I want to chase having a concrete impact in people's life versus always obtaining a title. And I think if you asked me 20 years ago, oh, what do you want to be? It's like, don't worry so much about what you want to be. Focus on what you want to do to maximize the impact in a space that you feel comfortable operating in.
I think there's so often, there's, even as we work in university setting here, I'm in marketing. Marketing is really bad for education understanding at times, because people are like, oh, I got to get this major. I got to get this degree, and I got that is going to equate my career and life.
Right.
And that's just not the case.
No, I mean, there's some hard things. Like if you want to do nursing, obviously you can't, it's hard to go back and stuff like that. But generally, I mean, if you major in the humanities, you can still get in the business world. I mean,
Right.
People are looking for, especially in this labor market, I mean, the unemployment here in this county is 1.8%. I mean, there's plenty of jobs out there.
Yeah.
And the type of people you have here understand the concept of right place, right time, right uniform, willingness to learn. I mean, the world's yours, right? So, I mean, I think there's maybe too much emphasis put on the institution of academic learning, and there should be more emphasis on, yes, get to an institution of academic to learn, but be a lifelong learner and create your own education.
Yeah.
Right. And I talk about with my career is I was never a really, really good student. I mean, I think my ACT score was 20 or 21. I wasn't a very good high school student. So my point is, like, I've never had like a,
Yeah.
I mean, I passed a CPA exam by working my tail off, but I never had a test that said, Dale, you're really smart. Because I'm not. But what I've done is I've had these different careers. I have like an Army career, a political career, a business career. Then within those have had very unique opportunities. And what that does is create a Venn diagram. And between being an avid reader and also having these different careers, you find yourself, and all of a sudden the Army's like, hey, we're trying to create a team of, business people or people that understand government to serve in uniform to do this mission. You're like, well, I'm the guy. Like, I'm the guy who talks Army talk and talks business talk and talks political talk. It's not about a destination necessarily with your career as far as like, well, I want to be this and have this title. It's a journey, and don't be afraid to, go different directions. I mean, my wife was an accountant, then she became a teacher, and then she went back and became a nurse. And
Wow.
there's things in her career that she better understands because she has those experiences, right?
Absolutely. And I think that that's where it's important to remember that those are divine appointments. When at life, sometimes those turns are hard.
Yep.
Where something is denied you, but that opens up another door, and we never know what is being prepared for us in the next stage of life. Talk to me about, as a parent, there's something that I'm always interested about is you're very involved in your career. How do you make time to make sure that you're doing your job as a dad at the same time? So I'm a young dad. I've got a 3-year-old.
Oh wow, that's fun age.
He's so much fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
And
age.
I'm always balancing, when I'm gonna spend time with him and those kinds of things. And you lived the public life for a while,
Yeah.
so talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone I think thinks they could always do a better job, but on average, I think we do a pretty decent job. And I think just some tips I have on that. I mean, some of them are boring. You've heard before, like scheduling time on your calendar for family time, right? Whole time, So we like to go on a boat in lake country, or we like to go skiing. Like, make sure you schedule that, make that a priority, and don't be very flexible with that. Like, make that happen. I would also say is, I don't understand the concept of like, well, this is my work life and this is my family life. I think there is a good case to be made to, with a certain amount of professionalism, diligence, and not be over the top about it, but to have your family and your kids see what your work life looks like. So for me, I mean, our kids would do the parades for politics. The kids would go around getting signatures with me. I'd take them to the Capitol and they could see what we're doing in the Capitol. And, Army-wise, they've gone to like change of command ceremonies. Business-wise, they've gone and seen like automation machines and how things are made. So pulling your family into that and then talking about it so that they could kind of see what you're working for, the consequence you're working. I mean, I'll explain to my kids like, well, mom's can't come to your game because she's taking care of sick kids at Children's Hospital, right? So not only as parents and offering them the opportunity, like, hey, we can't do everything all the time because we also are serving our community in different ways. And I told this story to the last class I spoke to, and that means for me it's not always been just this very clean, like, oh, when there's these nice moments, I'm bringing my family into work. I had a really negative campaign against me 5 years ago. It was quite frankly, what Tommy Thompson said, probably the ugliest campaign in Wisconsin history. And that was because I represented a district that was a left-leaning district, and I'm Republican. It was a +9 Dem district. So they were really, really gunning for that district and thought they could get me. And they ran a very, very nasty campaign that was embarrassing, and I didn't want my kids to see, the type of stuff they were putting out. Mm-hmm. And so, screen time off, I get to the mailbox first, and I thought I had it buttoned down, and then we're around the dinner table, and my daughter at the time, who was in like 3rd grade, goes, "Yeah, Dad, they were talking about it on the playground." And I'm like, I sent my kids to a Christian school. It's a Christian community. I'm like, whose parents am I talk to? Like, this is not acceptable for a Christian school. And I, like, kind of with a red face, say, who was it and what they said? And my daughter says, well, it's Madeline and Maya, and they just want to say that what they're doing to you is unfair, and they love you, and they're praying for your family. And it was kind of a reminder to me is like, even in those dark moments of your life, you can't always isolate your work life from your personal life. And so taking that opportunity as a family to talk about, like, as Christians, like, we live in a dark world, and this is what darkness looks like. And when you're going to stand up for light in darkness, like, the darkness is going to try to overcome you. And in that moment too, for like my faith is, a lot of people would say, well, Dale, you don't deserve this. Like, you served your country, you're a good guy. Like, those are lies. Like, you don't deserve this. And I was overcome with the Holy Spirit one night when I was thinking about that. Like, yeah, I don't deserve this. This is crap. I'm a victim. And the Holy Spirit was like, Dale, you do deserve this. Like, the consequences of sin are death, right? And so what do I deserve? Like, I deserve so much more than this. And, like, that's the testimony I need to share with my family. And so I just, and there's a balance there. I get it. But I really encourage people for them to show what they do. I mean, so I'm the first guy in my family with a college education. I come from a line of garbage men, right? And like, I would go on the garbage truck with my dad, my uncles, my grandpa. And I remember like going to the dump and dumping it off. And I remember like just, they were very, very proud of what they did. And I saw that. And it's like, they would say, I remember my dad would be like, can you imagine if no one picked up the garbage? And like, there's been cases like that in cities where like there's a strike or something, the rats overtake it, and the public health issues. I mean, the work of a garbage man in the public health role is enormous. It's like it's just as great as a collective of doctors. I mean, you're going to have just as many health issues if you have no garbage man. They refuse to pick up garbage for months and months and months. Wisconsin is totally stacked with manufacturers, mid-sized manufacturers. And it's always amazing when I'm on those floors and I talk to these individuals doing manufacturing, like, what are you making? Oh, I don't know. I have a drawing. It's this little piece. And I'm like, well, what is that little piece going to? I don't know. Yeah. It's really important they know that, because like I've had circumstances like, well, that little piece goes in that piece, and that piece goes off to Oshkosh Trucking, and Oshkosh Trucking puts that in the MRAP, but it's going to our soldiers. And then when these individuals find that out, to like, wow, I'm making this that is going to serve my country, and they get all fired up, and it brings new life to their work. And then these guys and girls go home and tell their family, well, you know what I do? I work on that, and bring that pride to it. And so that's what I do, and I think it also helps my kids understand like the commitments I have, and be like, hey, Dad's going to be gone this weekend for more Army stuff, because this is the impact he's making as a Christian. As everybody, it's important.
I think that's so vitally important on two things to talk what you said. If your kids know what you're working on, sometimes they provide really interesting thoughts. So even as a 3-year-old, my son asks really good questions that he's not thinking, oh, how can I ask Dad intelligent questions about how his day went? He just he just doesn't know what's going on, so he'll just ask questions. And I early on I decided that I'm just going to talk to my son like an adult, instead of trying to baby talk and things like that. And my wife and I have just learned over the years that we ought to talk about what's going on around him, and he picks up on it.
Oh, absolutely.
They pick up on what's going on, and he's able to repeat some of that stuff every once in a while. I think it's important what you said too, that as Christians we don't just work for the paycheck. And so, like, if you believe you have a purpose in what you're doing, then you want to involve the rest of the family in that mission, in that goal. And obviously here at Maranatha, my job is to make other people aware of the mentorship opportunities that are here on campus. It's not just the degree, but it's my job to make sure other people who need this education, who need this opportunity, are aware of that.
Right.
And to me, that's better than saying, it's my job to make sure that there are more impressions, there are more likes, there are more emails, there are more clicks and stuff. All of the KPIs and stuff like that, that's not what people care about, because that's what gets us to the goal. That's not the goal itself. Yeah, it's really important. So you spoke today here in the workshop, and I know that was probably a good time, and working with other people. When you come to conferences like this and there's opportunities with students, I wonder, do you have any advice that you would give to kids while they're in college?
Oh man, I'm full of advice. There's all sorts of stories behind there, but I think, I talk about like the Venn diagram and add different, circles to that. I mean, there's different ways of learning. I think there's individuals that, we're going to come here and study biology, and then go to med school, and then they're going to like become a pediatrician, and they decide like, oh, I want to be a pediatrician that focuses on cancer, and then become like a pediatrician oncologist. So what they're doing is like they're driving down. That's great. I mean, there's other individuals that are here that I'd encourage them, like, well, get your degree and then start a business world, and then like join the Army, and then like have these like different circles that create your unique experience that's going to give you unique perspective, and become a lifelong learner. Like, allow this academic institution to build your network, learn stuff, but be in the habit of not only learning what's put before you, but reading and experiencing networks outside of your comfort zone in order to gain new perspective.
Obviously, there's like when you're in college, you're just saturated with information. And I don't know about you, but like after I graduated from grad school, I took like a siesta from reading. I need a break. Like, my sponge needs to seep out a little bit before I can start taking.
Yeah, but there's different types of readings. It doesn't have to always be educated. I mean, you could find, I think like reading novels bring just as much a dynamic to your professional career as like nonfiction books.
Yes.
And there's a lot of nonfiction books out there now that like read like novels too. But no, I think it's a dangerous habit to get out of. Especially like if you're going to, like, oh, books are out and Hulu and Netflix are in. I mean, I just think that is, I was talking in the class earlier too. I mean, with my soldiers, the people I lead, I always talk about a four-legged stool as far as what's healthy to be effective to you and those around you. And that four-legged stool looks like, number one is academics. You need to be intellectually curious, constantly use your mind, like read what's going on. Number two is, in no particular order, you have to have a healthy social life. So for us, like, we're really connected with our church. I have business groups, military groups I'm part of. So, academic curiosity, be socially connected. Healthy, like, take care of your health. I always tell my soldiers, like, if you're in the Army, this is why the Army discriminates based on certain health issues. Like, you're a liability to those around you if you're not taking care of yourself, right? Now, obviously, we all have issues in life that come up that are just genetic and happen. But generally speaking, like, taking care of your physical self is good for your mind, is good for those around you. And then fourth is just a spiritual component. Now, I lead in a lot of secular circumstances, so I can't go into like specifically the gospel message and this is the answer. But I do talk about that you need to seek some sort of glasses, some sort of frame of lens that recognizes, because everyone agrees on this first part, like, there's a lot of brokenness in this world. And so how are you operating with your family and with your work and everything? Like, how are you making sense of this broken world? And how are you sorting that out? And even as Christians, it's not like, oh, we have the answer, let me give you the exact answer. Like, I mean, as Jesus struggled, like, we also struggle, right? And so, like, that is okay to struggle, but it is also, just like I talked about working out with your physical health or exercising your mind and exercising your social connections, like, you should be exercising your spiritual health and praying and reading and trying to make sense of a broken world, because what you need to do is, I swear I turn this phone off 100 times today and it keeps going. Is there like a party foul for that? Is there like you get kicked off the show?
No.
Because you got to just keep exercising it, because it's important for you and those around you to have that four-legged stool working together.
I think it's amazing how different stages of life, like in that illustration, different stools have different parts of the stool have different emphases. So, I was talking about my 3-year-old. Actually, we went to shutdowns when he was still small, very small. And, my physical well-being at that point kind of took a back seat. And then so that I could take care of him, right? But then there was this like breaking point where it's like, yeah, but I got to be healthy enough to take care of him,
right?
And that's mental, not just the body. And it's amazing how much when you have the right mindset from a gospel perspective, the rest of the things you can kind of figure out where the priorities lie. But I know in my life, whenever my relationships have not been gospel focused, whenever my goals for my physical well-being have not been gospel focused, then I get them all out of whack.
Right.
That we were talking yesterday even about like the illustration of like, if God's in the center, everything else is connected to the center. And if you just misstep a little bit and put any of the other things in the center, the rest of them are going to be all wrong, because God's not in the center. And as a Christian, sometimes, I get more frustrated with other Christians who aren't taking care of the other life accounts, because they think they're serving the gospel, but they're actually undermining their ministry by not taking care of their family, by not taking care of their body, by not taking care of whatever else it is. And they're interrelated. They cannot be disconnected from one another. So if that's the point of your workshop, then absolutely, we agree on that kind of thing. And I think it's important that you said, though, like, talk more about the social life, because I think that's something that some people, they think, well, I'm not a social person, so I don't really need that.
Yeah, it's funny. So when I was assigned the topic, like, oh, you're doing work-life balance, it was like, oh, I read a book by Jack Welch on work-life balance, and so I like went to go order the book. I'm like, on the cover of this book, he's on the cover of the book with the woman he had an affair with. And I'm like, how does he mention work-life balance when you don't, like, I'm sorry, and I think he's like smart in many other ways and did great things, and I mean, like, I know it's personal and it's complicated, but like, I don't know if I want to take like work-life balance from someone who hasn't lived it out, right?
Yeah.
Because I don't think that's a sign of a healthy work-life balance. So yeah, I mean, I think just you got to be grounded in looking at, I don't believe in so much a work-life balance. Like I said, I think it is more of a, it's fluid, and, work was in the world before there was sin, right? Man was made to work. And so having that part of your healthy family life and part of your battle rhythm makes a lot of sense.
So I know that you have been instrumental in getting people at Maranatha in the past getting jobs. I know that a good friend of mine from college was Wendhold.
Yeah.
And so we haven't really stayed connected since then. But is that a rewarding part of your job?
Absolutely. I love hooking up your graduates. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So you guys used to have some interns at the Capitol and do some work, and then subsequently, I mean, you guys just have people that understand how to get things done. So it's there's a world of opportunity out there, and I love introducing people to the market and what's out there.
Well, we appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for your time today here on campus. Thank you for stopping in for the podcast.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us today. On Mission is a production of Maranatha Baptist University. Subscribe to On Mission on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to leave a review, as this will help other growing leaders find these conversations. For information about our guests, previous episodes, and general information about On Mission or MBU, go to mbu.edu/podcast. Join us again next week as we examine what keeps leaders on mission.